Well, nice to see you all. I was told that I have to stick here to this red circle, and I will try my best because I like to move and go around. Well, in a time in which everything is digital, or is becoming digital, I believe in building sidewalks, people, social interaction, and these kind of things. How many of you are interested in cities, understanding how urban areas works, what's the interaction between built environment and social environment, how these two things influence each other? That's what I do. This is my job. I guess that with a title like this, you expect me to provide very specific recipe on how to design the beautiful city, right? No, I'm not going to provide any recipe on how to do that. It's been a long story. There were two moments in my life that really brought me to think and work on urban beauty and what makes city beautiful and how to design beautiful places. As an architectural student, many years ago, I was asked to design new neighborhoods from scratch, from the top down. So I was sitting behind my desk and designing everything. The streets, the buildings, choosing all the functions of different buildings, and so on and so forth. Even designed the interiors of apartments. And inside me, I felt, wow, this is not going to work out. Why? Because I looked around, and most of the urban areas that I really liked, they were very little designed. That was the first time. The second time was in 2020. I'm sorry to come up with this topic, but we lived in our city, still the same city, but you remember what happened, lockdown. No social life, no social interaction. In the same city, the same buildings, the same street, everything. They look completely different. So, I want to ask you, what makes a city beautiful? I know this is something subjective and something that everybody stresses, so I'm not going to impose you any idea what makes a city beautiful in detail, because I understand we have different understanding of that. But still, there is a lot of things we can learn by reflecting on this topic. The first question that I want to raise today is the following. Is urban beauty relevant? I think it is, quite a lot, because what surrounds us really has a huge impact on our daily life. Still, I work in the scientific field. This is not relevant. But when I try to discuss about urban beauty with other colleagues, they come to me and say, Stefano, this is not relevant. This is not important. This is so subjective that it doesn't make sense to make this topic scientific. Well, my answer is, well, you know what? That's true, it's subjective. But at the same time, we can study individual preferences and trends. So we can ask people what they like or what they don't like. So we can understand patterns of preference in society. So I think it is quite important. The second point, they come to me, because planners are really boring most of the time. I am boring. They come to me and say, Stefano, there are so many crises in this world. Ecological crisis, economic crisis, and this and that, inclusivity and justice and blah, blah, blah. Why do you need to waste your time thinking about beauty? This is something so elitarian. So if you have time to think about beauty, it means that you are part of that very small, little part of society that have the chance to think about such a trivial topic. Well, beauty and urban beauty, it's so important, regardless of all the other issues that we have all around us. So urban beauty is relevant? Yes, I think it's fundamental. We need to discuss that, because if we don't understand from where urban beauty comes from, we will continue designing very bad places. So, the second question, is urban beauty a work of art? We definitely, most of the time, approach this topic by thinking that urban beauty is like architectural beauty, okay? So if there is someone, an artist, a planner, Stefano, the major, designing the city in detail. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but the city is not a work of art. The city is not, or designing a city, it's not like designing a sculpture. There is no artist deciding everything from the top down. So there is not someone with some ideas, intention, and then shaping the city directly from the top down. So I'm sorry, urban planners, I don't know if you know some, you are not an artist and you cannot design the city as a whole. The city is something different, it's something spontaneous. It's the place in which so many, uncountable number of actions and plans and design happen together at the same time. It's a living system, and those actions generate something that is spontaneous, emergent, unpredictable. So there is no someone orchestrating society from behind. The city is created over time by many uncountable people. Actually, what I realized by analyzing cities is that the more we want to design cities and urban areas, I'm talking about neighborhoods, the more this area becomes dull, monotonous, uninteresting, and so on and so forth. Let's continue. Probably you already got this. But is urban beauty all about architecture? Why it is not all about architecture? Although we are prone to think of urban beauty and visualize immediately buildings, parks, sidewalks. Although we know that inside, if we move closer to this topic, there are other elements that make a city beautiful. And the question that I want to raise is, why certain urban areas with very low profile, average buildings still feel so beautiful? Why certain neighborhoods in Berlin, in London, I come from Dortmund, Dortmund is okay, it's not Berlin, but why certain areas still feel so beautiful, although the architecture is not? Well, it is so because the city is a total experience. It's not only about visual things. It's not only about the architecture. The urban experience is a total one. It's about building, street, squares, but then it's about smell, noise, people, street atmospheres, vibes, culture, shops, the kind of opportunity you have, the kind of people you can meet in the street, and so on and so forth. And I find really strange that in my field, there are almost no people who are interested in studying the characteristics of those places that people like and why. And probably I was a bit crazy, but some years ago, I started to analyze places and neighborhoods that people really like. And I find out the most important factors are about what kind of people you can meet in the street, what kind of shops. But this is something that we know, right? This turns a city into something interesting. So, it's not only about our architecture. There are many other factors that make a city interesting. Usually only architects and planners go to place only to see the architecture. All the other normal people go there to enjoy life. Now, an experiment. We are at TED Talk, so now at a certain point you need to close your eyes. Close your eyes. Think of an urban area that you really like. Urban area means it's not a garden, it's not a countryside, it's not a farm. Our urban area, there are people, it's dense, and there is a bit of traffic. It's urban. Think about that. What makes this area beautiful? Okay. Now, think about the same space, the same area, but with completely different social characteristics. Perhaps something that you really dislike. I don't know, it could be an area full of crime, garbage, rubbish, unsafety, insecurity, abandoned buildings, shops are all closed, and so on and so forth. No people at all. Is the area that you're imagining still nice? Some people would say yes, because I'm not a psychologist, so I cannot understand. But it's still nice? No. And that's what happened all the time through history in cities. Think about New York and how many areas were perceived as ugly, like the Bronx in the 70s. Well, you can also open your eyes now. Huh? I see some people probably, okay, sorry. Certain areas in the 70s, they were perceived as ugly. The Bronx, wow, such a horrible place. We go back now to New York, same places, and those areas are beautiful. But the built environment is still the same, and that's what happens all the time in cities. The perception and their level of attractiveness change so drastically, although the built environment doesn't change. I hope this point is clear. But now a big question as a planner. We need to ask ourselves if we're really contributing to make city beautiful nowadays. Does contemporary planning support urban life? Well, most of the new developments that we have in our city, try to think of a new neighborhood built in the city where you come from. They happen at a very large scale. Most of the time, those are huge areas. They are designed from the top down. Everything is planned in great detail, and the only problem we have is to implement the development. So to make the plan effective and to create something all at once, forever, frozen in time, okay? Most of the time, these spaces are not, well, if you know the project, I'm not blaming the architect, it's just to show that it's an example, but there are plenty of areas like this. Those areas are not capable of including social expression. Usually they do not stimulate social life and street life at the sidewalks level, and they are not so interesting. Although architects, they really make their best when they create renderings to, provide an image or visualize a lot of life. What happens is that those places are kind of boring, monotonous, dull, no mix of uses, not something happen. And we are creating more and more and more and more areas of this kind. Actually, it's quite difficult to find very good projects built after the Second World War, but anyhow, that's what we are producing. So, I'm telling you that social aspects are mainly those things that make the city beautiful. It's all about people, street atmosphere, culture, so quite a lot of things derive from the kind of actions and things people do in space. So the question is planning useless? Are people like me completely useless in society? Maybe yes, why not? To a certain extent, yes, because the city works on its own. But at the same time, we need to develop new cities, we need to develop new areas, we need to design. But I think planning and design becomes completely useless if we use planning and design as an end in itself. So if we approach city development and city planning as a way to create something that is aesthetically pleasing, perfect, beautiful from the top down, this is not the purpose of planning and design, in my opinion. So planning is not useless if we see planning in a completely different way. So we need to judge if a design or a plan is good, if it's capable to generate life, people action, social expression, if the built environment becomes adaptable, flexible, and can really incorporate the life of people. What we really appreciate when we walk around cities is to see all those details, right? When we walk, because we see the expression of people on shops, on the sidewalk, and so on and so forth. If a city area is not capable of including that diversity, we are all diverse, and that diversity should be expressed in urban areas. If a project is not capable of doing that, it's a bad project, in my opinion. So, I'm not going to conclude with this statement, but I want also to provide you some principles, ideas, tips for planners, mainly if you know someone, or also for you if you want to read and discuss if a plan or a design is good or not. There are certain things that are quite important in trying to trigger, generate, stimulate urban life. And as you will see, these things are not so much designed. So what happened most of the time? We start designing new places, and we start from buildings. We start from things that probably are not so relevant when it comes to the large-scale development. So my tips are the following. The most important thing to design when it comes to development of new places is to focus on the street layout, the public spaces. The street layout is important. Why? Because from that design, it comes things like the walkability of places, the facility to interact with people in space. And more importantly, the street layout is so important because it lasts almost forever, while buildings are substituted over time. So the street layout is the first thing. The second thing, and usually these things are things that designers and planners do not really consider. They more focus on function. The second thing It's about the property configuration. And we do not discuss this topic in our field. What we really appreciate and what makes us an urban area vibrant is diversity. And from where does diversity come from? People. But how? By letting them express in space. And that diversity comes from the fact that design responsibility are spread and distributed among many, 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 many different people, which means that we need to provide design solutions that fragmented property configuration in many, many small pieces. Only in this way we can have something vibrant. The third is rules. Probably you're not familiar with planning rules or land use zoning or things like that, but they're really restrictive, very rigid. They tell you exactly everything, how to design things, and how much space should be dedicated to parking lots and green areas and blah, blah, blah. I think rules should change drastically. Rules should be written in a way that allow a lot of room for creativity, really local creativity of single designers. The last one is time. When we design new places, we usually want to design the perfect city all at once. So we think we have all the knowledge to design something perfect that will last forever. But at the same time, we know that this is not true. So a good design is a design that is capable of incorporating time and change. It's a design that can generate life, and moreover, it's capable of providing continuous room for many, many adaptations over time. It's a space for action. So, to conclude, urban beauty, I think it's absolutely important. Can we design urban beauty directly? I don't think so. Actually, most of the things that make a city beautiful are things that are not designable, are social factors. But still, we can provide those conditions and those elements that can stimulate urban life. And I think planners should completely change their approach to design city. So with this talk, I hope I'm giving you some insights on how to look differently around yourself and to interpret what you like or you not like about city areas in a different manner. Thanks for your time.